I am going to show you how to make a boot cuff or boot topper, and I'm going to be using the 40 peg sock loom 3/8 inch, but I'm not using all the pegs, so you could actually do this with a thicker yarn and make this on just about any loom you want, just so long as you have 19 pegs. And what you want to do is you want to count 8 over and put a marker there, and that marker is going to tell you that you're doing the lace section here over, and the other side is going to be telling you when you're going to be doing a purl and a knit to create a rib stitch, and that way it'll have the stretch. Now, to get how long you need to make your boot cuff, you will need to measure where you'll want it to be sitting and how wide or how long you need it. The other thing is you're going to be doing a flat drawstring cast on, because we're going to do a Kitchener, similar to Kitchener bind off. And the reason why I'm going to show you from this point is because it repeats however many times you need to get the length you want. But what you're going to do is you're going to do a drawstring cast on flat, and then you're going to knit a row. And then you're going to start the 7-row pattern. And the 7-row pattern should start from right to left. From right to left, you're always going to be knitting. From left to right, you're always going to be purling. So we're going to be knitting over. And so I don't have to count, I just knit over to my marker. Now I know I'm fixing to start the lace section, and so I'm going to knit 2. Then I'm going to take and decrease the next stitch over, yarn over, which I'm just going to lay the yarn over the peg, toss both loops over, and then I'm going to knit to the end. And that is the first row. Here's the second row, it's shorter. You're going to knit 3, wrap and turn, and knit 3. That's row 2. Now you're going to E-wrap chain 6 times. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Knit 2, wrap and turn, knit 3, and that's row 3. This is what it shows on the written pattern. Now we're on row 4, so we're going to knit over, and then when you get to that one that has the 2 wraps and turns, you're going to toss all 3 loops over. And then you're going to knit 1, and then you're going to purl that yarn over, knit 2 to your marker, and now you're on to the back half. We're going from left to right, so we're going to purl, and there's row 4. Now we're going to do row 5. We're going from right to left, so our back half is going to be a knit over to our marker, now we know we're to the lace pattern, so we're going to knit over 4. Then we're going to take the next loop and we're going to decrease it, move it over to the next peg, yarn over by simply laying the working yarn over, and toss both loops over. And that is row 5. And this is row 6. Purl the yarn over, and knit over. And you've knit the last one, you're going to purl the back half because we're going left to right. Okay, I'm sorry, it's not 7 rows, it's 6 rows. So that is your 6-row set, and you just go back to the beginning and you continue on doing that 6-row set until you have however many you need. And then when you are ready, which I am, I'm going to take my end, make sure that it's not twisted, and I'm going to start adding back in my loops from my drawstring cast on. And you should see in there little breaks in between your stitches. And the reason why we're doing it this way is it makes it, you don't notice a seam so much when you do this particular cast off. Because this yarn is fairly fine, it's easy to see it. This is the Unforgettable Red Heart yarn in stained glass. And while they say it's a worsted yarn, I would say it's thinner than your average worsted yarn. That's the reason why I've used it so much. To me, it's thinner. So looks like I'm a little short. I might have to move them over. Let's see if I missed one. Sometimes it's easy to start later back here than sooner. I may have to move that around. I'm 2 off. If you're 2 off, then sometimes maybe it's easier to go from this direction. But you want the stitches to line up. Trust me, it's well worth the time to do this. The finished look matters. But if you don't feel like doing it, just do a regular cast on, regular cast off, and you can just sew it up if you don't feel like going through this whole technical stuff. But I personally like the look of it. Now you're going to cut a long strand, and you'll need you a needle to go in and weave it in. And if you've done my knitted knockers video, you'll have seen this before. Okay. We're going to go and do a knit, knit, send it through the top. If you can get a narrower needle, you might want to. It makes it easier. You can do this with the hook too. I just find it's easier to do it this way. Okay. Then you're going to send up through a purl on the next loop, and then go back to the first peg and purl again. So the best way to remember is it's a knit, knit, purl, purl, and the way you know is if you're going up through the top, so it's going to be a knit next in the bottom. Then you're going to go up through the top and you're going to knit, which is your second knit. Then you're going to purl, sending the needle up through the bottom to top on the next peg, and you go through and find the bottom of the previous peg, and you go up through the bottom as a purl. Then you're going to go knit, knit. So there's your knit. And there's your knit. Okay, now we've done 2 knits. Now it's time to do a purl and purl. So you go to the next peg, you purl the top one, and you go to the previous bottom loop on the previous peg and you purl it, send it through the bottom. Then you go to the bottom peg of the next one and you knit, send it through the top, and then send it through the top again on the top one. So we've just done 2 knits. Now we're time to do 2 purls. You're going to do that all the way over, and then after you do that, I would suggest going in and tightening up your loops before taking the stitches off. That way it's already tightened and you don't have to actually sit there and worry about it. So go ahead and finish this off, and then you'll need to make 2, and that's how you go about making a boot topper or a boot cuff. And the only other thing to keep in mind is you will need to block, and my suggestion for blocking is going to be folding it in half after you wet it. Fold it in half and then try to line up these little notches here with a corresponding notch and put the needle down that way. It's going to curve out, so you can see how that kind of goes. And I would suggest using the needle like that, putting the needles out like that and stretching it out as much as possible, but sending the needle through a corresponding end loop. But you will need to block it if you want it to lay right. Otherwise, that's how you make a boot cuff or boot topper on your fine gauge Cindy Wood Loom sock loom.